Welcome back to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and today we're tackling one of the most critical intersections in enterprise tech right now, AI agents and how they're colliding with EU AI Act compliance as we head toward 2026. Sam, we're seeing this explosion of AI agent adoption across Europe, but the regulatory landscape is tightening fast. What's the core tension we're looking at here?
Great question, Alex. The tension is really straightforward but consequential. Organizations want to deploy autonomous AI agents for massive productivity gains. We're talking 30 to 40% improvements in customer support, data analysis, all of that. But they're doing it under a regulatory framework that's basically saying, hold on, show us your work. The EU AI Act doesn't prohibit AI agents. It just requires that high-risk applications prove they're safe, explainable, and accountable. That's a design problem, not a technology problem.
So when you say high risk, what are we actually talking about? Because not every AI agent deployment triggers these strict requirements, right?
Exactly. The EU AI Act creates risk tiers. High-risk systems are those used in employment decisions, credit assessment, law enforcement support, or critical infrastructure, basically areas where errors or bias cause real harm. If your AI agent is screening job candidates or deciding loan approvals, you're in high-risk territory. If it's summarizing customer emails, you're not. The high-risk ones face mandatory risk assessments, transparency standards, human oversight mechanisms, and continuous monitoring. That's the compliance burden we need to discuss.
And the numbers are striking. Gartner's data shows 60% of enterprises are already piloting or deploying AI agents in production, up from 35% just last year. In Europe's regulated sectors, finance, healthcare, automotive, it's even more aggressive. What does that tell you?
It tells me most organizations haven't aligned their deployment timelines with their compliance readiness. Gartner's survey is about pilots and production environments, but Deloitte's research found that 64% of European enterprises lack adequate governance frameworks. So we have this dangerous gap, lots of deployment activity, not enough compliance infrastructure. Organizations are essentially building the plane while flying it.
That's the nightmare scenario for a CTO or a compliance officer. Let's dig into what adequate governance actually looks like. What are the core components an organization needs to build if they're deploying high-risk AI agents?
Start with documentation and design. You need to embed governance at the system architecture stage, not bolt it on later. That means comprehensive AI lead architecture frameworks. Second, risk assessment. Identify where bias could creep in, where the system might fail, and document those scenarios. Third, explainability. Your AI agent can't be a black box making decisions that affect people's employment or credit. You need to explain how it reached a decision in terms humans can understand and challenge.
And that's harder than it sounds, especially with large language models and deep learning systems where explainability is genuinely difficult. How are forward-thinking organizations tackling that?
A few ways. Some are using interpretability tools that break down how a model weighted different inputs. Others are designing their agents to operate within guardrails, limiting decisions to narrow domains where they can explain their reasoning. And critically, they're keeping humans in the loop for high-stakes decisions. An AI agent might screen 200 job candidates and flag the top 50, but a human makes the final call. That's human oversight built into the workflow, not as a compliance checkbox.
You mentioned data quality and bias auditing earlier. That's where a lot of organizations trip up, isn't it? Legacy data often contains structural biases.
Absolutely. If your training data reflects historical discrimination or market skew, your AI agent will perpetuate that at scale, faster and at greater volume than the original bias. The EU AI Act requires continuous bias monitoring and mitigation. So you're not just building a fair model once, you're establishing an ongoing audit and remediation program. That's a different operational mindset. It means allocating resources to monitoring, not just deployment.
Let's talk about the compliance penalty structure, because that's a real business driver here. Non-compliance with the EU AI Act for high-risk systems carries fines up to 30 million or 6% of global annual revenue. For a large enterprise, that's sobering.
It's not just the financial hit, though that's painful. It's the reputational damage and customer trust erosion. If you deploy an AI agent that makes biased decisions in hiring or lending, and that gets exposed, you're fighting a PR battle that fines alone don't capture. McKinsey's research shows that enterprises deploying agentic workflows responsibly see ROI within 6 to 12 months, but that assumes they got compliance right. Deploy carelessly, face sanctions, and you're eating years of productivity gains.
So the business case for compliance isn't actually cost, it's risk mitigation and sustained value creation. That's an important reframe for any C-suite executive listening. Let me ask you this. We're now about 18 months from 2026 when the EU AI Act comes into full enforcement. What should an organization starting from a compliance deficit be doing right now?
3 things immediately. First, audit your current and planned AI agent deployments. Classify them by risk level. Get clarity on which ones fall into high-risk categories under the Act. Second, establish a governance task force. Bring together compliance, data, product, and IT. Design your AI lead architecture frameworks before you scale deployments. Third, pilot governance processes now. Don't wait until 2026. Run one high-risk AI agent through a complete compliance workflow: assessment, documentation, bias testing, human oversight integration. Learn what works before you scale it to 10 agents.
That pilot-first approach makes sense because you'll hit unforeseen friction points that you can't predict theoretically. Are there industries or use cases where you're seeing more mature compliance practices already in place?
Financial services are ahead of the curve because they've been operating under strict regulatory regimes for decades. Banks implementing AI agents for credit assessment already understand the documentation and audit requirements. Healthcare is also pushing forward, partly because patient safety is non-negotiable. Automotive, because safety and liability are clear. Retail and general tech are lagging. They're deploying faster but with less governance rigor. That's where we'll see the compliance issues emerge first.
So there's a silver lining in existing regulation. If you're already heavily regulated, the compliance muscle is there. You're just redirecting it. For organizations without that history, they're building from scratch. What's the resource investment we're talking about here? Is this a hire a compliance team scenario or more nuanced?
It depends on scale, but realistically, you need hybrid expertise. You need data scientists who understand bias and model behavior, product managers who can design human-in-the-loop workflows, compliance specialists who know the EU AI Act, and lawyers who understand AI liability. That could be a team of 5 to 10 for a mid-market company, 20 or 30 for an enterprise. But here's the key. It's not all new headcount. Some is reskilling existing IT and compliance staff. Some is outsourcing to AI governance consultancies that specialize in this space. There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Speaking of consultancies and external expertise, how important is it to bring in outside perspective on your AI governance framework? Can you build this entirely in-house?
You can, but I wouldn't recommend it as your sole approach. The EU AI Act is still new. Regulatory interpretation is still evolving. External consultancies have visibility across multiple organizations and industries. They see patterns and pitfalls faster. They also bring credibility if you're audited. That said, you need internal ownership and accountability. The ideal model is partnership. Bring in consultants to help design your framework, but ensure your team internalizes it and runs it going forward. That avoids dependency and keeps knowledge in-house.
Last question before we wrap. What's your advice to someone listening who's either a CTO, a compliance officer, or a business leader about to make AI agent investment decisions? What's the golden rule?
Don't separate compliance from strategy. Treat governance as a feature, not friction. The organizations that will win in this space aren't the ones that deployed the most agents fastest. It's the ones that deployed responsibly and can scale with confidence. If you're building an AI agent, the compliance requirements should inform your architecture from day one, not derail it 6 months later. And 2026 isn't a deadline. It's a date when enforcement begins. The smart money is moving now.
That's excellent practical wisdom. Sam, thanks for walking through this with me. Listeners, if you want to dive deeper into how to navigate EU AI Act compliance for agentic workflows, the full article is on etherlink.ai. You'll find strategic frameworks, specific compliance checklists, and real-world examples from regulated industries. Thanks for joining us on EtherLink AI Insights. We'll see you next time.